All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as Matt Barrows from The Athletic has done an amazing job with an article about athletes or perfect fits for the 49ers in the upcoming draft. And we'll take a look at those perfect fits and see if we agree or disagree, and then add some of our own. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket. Get some brisket chili. Tell them the Krug sent you. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. 205 Cypress Avenue is where they hail, Pacific Grove, California. Anthony Catania is the owner. He's at 831-521-5264. And this video is also brought to you by our good friends at Aura. And we'll have a word from Aura in just a minute. But let's go through, I think, I've said it many times, and I want to embarrass the guy, but I think Matt Barrows is the best Niner beat writer that there is. I think he's conscientious, he's hardworking, he hustles, he's got relationships, he's got sources, he's dialed in. He's been doing it for a long time, and he does a really good job. And he has a fantastic article that was put out on Wednesday of last week, February the 19th. It's entitled "From Tyler Warren to Kobe Bryant, Finding the 49ers Perfect Draft Fits." And, the one thing, if you cover a team for a number of years, you start to have information about what they like in a player at a particular position. And that's a moving target sometimes, right? Because just because Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are starting year 9 of this regime, there may be some positions where they liked one trait early on, and now through the years have changed that trait because of either rules changes or philosophy changes or just experience. We all learn from our mistakes and kind of adjust and then go from there. But Maddie's got a great article here, and the article is about the perfect fit at each position for a Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch football team. And so we're all guessing along at this point. So he's looking at the prospects, looking at their history, trying to make sense of it, and trying to find a perfect fit. And he's got a trait or two that kind of fit each position. And so we'll go right down the list, and we'll take a look at his. I do agree with a few of his, because Matty's really good. But, of course, I have my own thoughts and don't agree with all of his, which should not be a surprise to anybody, right? I agree with some. I don't agree with some. That's pretty much par for the course. I mean, that's pretty much what you could expect, I think, is that, I'm not going to agree with all, but at the same time, I'm not going to disagree with all. All right, so let's go through it one by one. Now, he starts at quarterback, and he talks about Shanahan would never turn down a tall, tough, quick processing quarterback with a cannon for an arm. But when you kind of hammer down and look at the quarterbacks that the Niners have drafted, for the most part, outside of Trey Lance, many of them fit the same mold, which is they're really, really good processors. They have athleticism and can move, but they're guys who are experienced. I mean, Brock Purdy was experienced. Brian Hoyer was experienced. C.J. Beathard played a full career at Iowa. These are guys that he liked. He likes Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins, a pocket passer, but has a little bit of mobility, a little bit of ability to move. And so you're looking for somebody who, Brock Purdy doesn't have great size. I don't think the Niners have to have a quarterback that's 6'6", 230 with a howitzer, though Joe Flacco is available if they want to sign him this offseason. But Matty at quarterback went with Dillon Gabriel, who, if you say Dillon Gabriel, wow, Dillon Gabriel's been in college a long, long time. He really has. He's gone from Central Florida years ago to Oklahoma to Oregon. And Matty's like, hey, like Purdy, Gabriel does not have great size or arm strength. He played a lot of college football. And he was very accurate, 72.9% completion percentage last year. He also added 7 rushing touchdowns. Like Brock Purdy, he can move. So he's got Dillon Gabriel as the fit for the 49ers. I like it. It's a good it's a good fit. I think there's a better fit. I think there's a better fit than Dillon Gabriel. I'm going to go with Brady Cook, the quarterback from Missouri, who wore number 12 at Missouri. 6'2", 215 pounds, a little bit more substantial physically. Played in the best conference in America, the SEC. He's battle-tested. This guy is very experienced. He made 47 career starts as well. So this guy's played a lot of college football as well. So in that regard, he shares that trait with Dillon Gabriel. Both have played a lot of college football. 50 touchdowns, 15 picks for Brady Cook. He's a good runner. He's a really good runner. And he can make the anticipatory throws. And he's a leader. He's the captain of the team. And not only that, he's a leader that guys respond to. Over the last 2 seasons at Missouri, and this is in the SEC, playing an SEC schedule, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks. A lot of people compare him to Andy Dalton, like an Andy Dalton 2.0. You know, he's a gamer. He's competitive. He's tough as hell. Who's this sound like? A little bit like Brock Purdy. Second winningest quarterback in Missouri history. The kid's really, really, really committed. In one game, he got carted off, literally carted off the field, and came back into the game and led Missouri to victory. I mean, this kid's a gamer. 26-13 college record, 20-5 over the last 2 years at Missouri in the SEC. Missouri is got some great players, but they're hardly the kings of the SEC. But he went 20-5 in the last 2 years at Missouri. Academic honor roll, smart kid. SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year in 23 and 24. He's like one of only 3 guys in history to win that award back-to-back years, and he did it in 23 and 24. Gritty, tough player. MVP of the Music City Bowl. Led Missouri to a great win over the Iowa Hawkeyes this year. Won the MVP of the 2023 Cotton Bowl the year prior. So there's a lot to like here. He threw the ball to Luther Burden, who's arguably the best receiver in college football, outside of maybe Tetaroa McMillan, and Brady Cook. You know, his head coach nearly came to tears talking about him. That's how emotionally invested the head coach at Missouri is in Brady Cook. I like him. Now, does he have a huge arm? No, he doesn't have a huge arm. Who does that sound like? Brock Purdy. But he's got mobility, and he's got experience, and he's a leader, and he's a captain, and he plays hurt, and he won a lot of games, and he was the MVP, and he rose to the level of the moment in the Music City Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. I mean, this guy plays big. Academic honor roll, scholar athlete, gritty, tough, smart, can process what he sees. Sounds an awful lot like Brock Purdy to me. I like Brady Cook. I like Brady Cook more than I like Dillon Gabriel. So there you go. I think that's a good fit. I think that is a good mix, or a good fit for the 49ers, Brady Cook. Now, there's other guys who can run. I like Riley Leonard. I like the kid from Syracuse. I like the kid from Texas Tech, Shug, who started at Oregon. But yeah, I think mobility takes Shug out of the mix. You know, he doesn't have – this is a day 3 player. Brady Cook's a day 3 player. You know, I'd say he's a 7th-round pick. There's just something about Brady Cook that's like gamer. He's a little bit more of a gamer than Dillon Gabriel in my mind. So I'm going Brady Cook. Matty goes with Dillon Gabriel. I'll go with Brady Cook. All right, let's move to running back. What do Shanahan like in running backs? Well, he likes guys who are productive. There's no question about that. He doesn't want workout warriors. Bobby T is not looking for just guys who are a certain size and speed. He wants production. He wants you to be a good running back. You got to hit the hole hard. You can't be a dance at the line of scrimmage guy. Le'Veon Bell need not apply, right? He's looking. Bobby T is tough, and he wants guys who have great change of direction, can change speed quickly. Speed is what Shanahan looks for at running back. What can Christian McCaffrey do? He can run. What can Raheem Mostert do? He can run. Now, Shanahan's had some backs that weren't great runners. Elijah Mitchell wasn't a great runner, even though he ran great for the stopwatch, 4.33, but he didn't play to that on the field. So he wants, and Bobby T wants guys who have instincts and speed. Instincts and speed. Now, Matty's going Dylan Sampson, the very productive running back from Tennessee, and Dylan Sampson's a good name for sure. I'm going to go with Bashul Tutin from Vatek. He's just, he's going to run 4.3s in the 4.3s. He's very, very productive player, tackle breaker, not a lot of dancing in the backfield. He can catch it out of the backfield. As a 49er, Niners, I think, in this draft are going to be looking for somebody who can be a punt returner or a kick returner. Bashul Tutin can do that. Very strong, very fast, 4.32 speed. I think Bashul Tutin is a good fit for them, and it's probably going to be a mid-round pick. So that's who I would go with as my match at running back. Let's move to wide receiver. Maddie's got two names here that are just spot on, and this tells you why Barrows is so good. Because he doesn't follow the draft year round usually. But he studies and he hustles and he's smart. He's got Savion Williams out of TCU in the third round. First of all, wide receiver. Now, Matty went with two guys. He said it's the only spot we'll go with two candidates because Shanahan likes two distinct, different types of receivers. One who's a player who's a part running back, someone who's technically a wide receiver but is very strong with the ball in his hands and run after the catch ability. It's why the Niners like Debo, Jalen Hurd, Ray McLeod, etc. The second type is someone with excellent ability to separate. And he says Shanahan watches wideouts' lower bodies and how smoothly and forcefully they make cuts and create separation with defenders. So he went with Savion Williams out of TCU as the guy who's like a running back. And this guy played quarterback in high school, and he's played wildcat quarterback at TCU. And they do direct snaps to him, and they utilize him as a running back. And we don't know what he's going to run, but that's one of the big things of the weekend at the Combine is how does Savion Williams run. If he runs a blistering time, he's very strong. I mean, we're talking about 6'3", 225. Very strong player. Runs kind of upright, takes some hits. But if he runs a blistering time, he might go in the third round. If he runs a slowish time, he might go in the sixth round. So the people are all over the map on Savion Williams, but he's unique. And kind of like Debo, if you're looking for that Debo replacement, I could see where you would say Savion Williams. Savion Williams, I think, definitely has a lot of the same traits that Debo has. Big, physical. You can use him on the short stuff. And then the second guy that Maddie's going with is Ricky White from UNLV, and he's got him going to the Niners in the sixth round. He sees similarities between Ricky White and Kendrick Bourne. I think those are great names, by the way. I think he's spot on. I think Ricky White and Savion Williams are great fits for the Niners. Why? Well, Ricky White, not only, he would be probably the last receiver on the roster, and the last receiver on the roster has got to give you special teams contributions. Ricky White blocked 4 punts this year by himself. Ricky White. No other FBS school blocked 4 punts this season. Ricky White blocked 4 by himself at UNLV. So there's no question. Ricky White, I think I think he definitely has the ability to separate on those shallow crossers, as Maddie indicates, is something that Shanahan likes. But he also gives you special teams contributions, not just as a return man either, but as a punt blocker off the edge. I mean, look at it this way. If Ricky White made this team as a 7th-round pick or 6th-round pick and blocked 2 punts next year, we'd be like, whoa, this guy's a punt blocker. He blocked 4 last year in college all by himself. So I love those two names, and I think they're spot on. I'm going to add one more name. Luther Burden, the third, the wide receiver from Missouri, who's probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver off the board after Tedoroa McMillan. Luther Burden is a better version of Debo Samuel. He's Debo, but better. Debo, you can throw Debo the hitch. You can throw Burden the hitch, except he's faster. You can throw Debo the screen. You can throw Burden the screen, except he's better. Luther Burden did all of the same things at Missouri that Debo did for the Niners. He absolutely did. And, if Savion Williams, you think Savion Williams is a good fit for the Niners, and Luther Burden's an amazing fit. He's a St. Louis kid who is tough as nails. You can't hit this guy hard enough. He always bounces back up. This is one of the toughest guys in the draft. Occasionally, the receivers. You say, what's the most underrated trait in a receiver? And I'll say this. I think Maddie might have missed the boat on this article in this position on one candidate or one position. This one. I don't think the overarching common denominator of Niner receivers necessarily is their size or their 40 time, or as he says, Shanahan likes distinct kinds of guys. He likes guys who are, the running back / wide receiver, but really what he likes is he likes the run after the catch. That's the receivers that can do run after the catch. And then he likes guys who separate. But Luther Burden, I really think if you look at Kyle's receivers, what does he really value in receivers? Toughness. What's Ayuk? Tough as hell. What's JJ? Tough as hell. What's Debo? Super tough. These are the Niners receivers are among the toughest in the entire league. Are they the best? Were they the best receiver? No, they're not the best. But they go after tough receivers. 49er receivers run across the middle of the field like they freaking own it. Toughness is the trait that Niner receivers, that Kyle really values in receivers. And I love Savion Williams. I love Ricky White. They're both great picks by Barrows. But who is the toughest guy? Who's the best guy who really could fill Debo's shoes? Luther Burden. Luther Burden is exactly what the Niners want in a receiver. Super tough. Runs across the middle of the field like he owns it. High points the ball. Takes big hits from time to time and bounces right back up. This guy's got a swagger. When I go in the locker room sometimes in the middle of the year when it's a slow period, I'll ask these guys, hey, man, something's going down in a bar and you can have any guy in this room backing you up. Who are you going to have? Guys will say Juwan Jennings because he's tough. And I guarantee you if the Niners drafted Luther Burden, people would be saying Luther Burden because he's tough. That's what separates Luther Burden from everybody else. He's tough. Super tough. You can't hit this guy hard enough. You can't intimidate this guy. This guy is tough. And he's a great rack runner. Run after the catch all day, all night. So I love that. To me, if there's one match at receiver, it's Luther freaking Burden. All right, let's move to tight end. Maddie at tight end says, tight ends who can block a 270-pound defensive end on one play and then grab a 50-yard touchdown on the next play. That's what the Niners are looking for. They're looking for guys who are strong enough to block but good enough receivers. And Kittle obviously was a perfect fit in 2017 in the 5th round. Since that point, they grabbed Charlie Warner. He's a blocker, not a receiver. They drafted Cam Latu in the 3rd round. He was a bust. They drafted Braden Willis in the 7th round. He hasn't necessarily made an impact. Maddie's suggesting Tyler Warren, who is a Gronk 2.0 kind of a guy. And that's a great one. Everybody loves Tyler Warren. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he's all of that. I'm gonna go down the list. I think there's another trait here that Matt did not put down, and that is intelligence. You have to be smart to play tight end and fullback in this offense. There's so many things at the line of scrimmage. There's so many different formations. There's so many different personnel groupings. There's so many different. You have shifting and motions, and the tight end's got to be mentally absolutely engaged. He has got to know. He's got to know literally where to line up on every single play, where to shift to, all the pre-snap eye candy that Shanahan loves to feature. Generally includes the tight end and the fullback moving around. So they need smart guys. You got to have smart guys. The Niners took Juszczyk. He went to Harvard. They drafted Jack Coletto at fullback. He was a mechanical engineering major, and they gave him a year, and then they lost him in waivers to the Steelers. But they like intellect at fullback. They like intellect at tight end. Why did Cam Latu struggle so much? It's because he didn't know where he was going half the time. He would show up at the line of scrimmage, and somebody's yelling at him, somebody's pointing to him, somebody's telling him where to line up. No, line up here. No, here. Cam, you're supposed to be on the other side. I mean, he had all kinds of mental breakdowns. Intelligence is yes, you need to be big, strong, fast. But Niners need their tight ends to be smart. So the perfect fit for the Niners at tight end is Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech. He's big. He's got good ball skills. He's probably close to 260 pounds, but he's got good ball skills. I saw this guy make multiple one-handed catches this year. He made a one-handed catch in the lead-up to one of the All-Star games in the practices I was watching. Jackson Hawes. He started at Yale in the Ivy League and transferred to Georgia Tech. And he's athletic as hell and smart. You don't get into Yale unless you're smart. So I'll take Jackson Hawes in the mid-rounds as a perfect Niner tight end. Because he's smart, he can block, and he can catch. Tyler Warren, great fit as well. But you got to be able to block and catch, and you have to be really, really smart. And Jackson Hawes can block, he can catch, and he's really, really smart. All right, let's move to offensive tackle. Maddie says that the Niners are looking for tackles with good feet. And I totally agree. He's going with Chase Lunt, an offensive tackle from UConn, who says he says has great feet. And he says he's a 4th-round match for the Niners. I'm going to go with a guy who's going to probably come off the board a little bit before that, but Ariante Ursi from Minnesota. Reading the Bruce Feldman freaks list, I mean, it's pretty clear. Ariante Ursi is a really intriguing player. They say that Ursi is going to have a 1-5-2 10-yard split for the shuttle. That's faster than Brock Purdy. This guy's 6'3" and 340 pounds. That's putting him up and putting him down. You know, that's picking him up and putting him down. That's some great feet. That's some great speed. I don't. First of all, I doubt he's going to run that. I mean, if this guy runs a 1-5-2 10-yard split at 340 pounds, I'll eat my hat. I mean, come on. What are we talking about? There's no way in hell this guy can move that fast. It doesn't matter, though. He moves really fast. For a guy who's 6'3", 340, I think we saw at the end of the year with some of the Niners' offensive additions on the line that they're going to look for a bigger-bodied offensive lineman going forward. But they still want great footwork, and I totally agree with Maddie. Footwork at the tackle spots is premier. It's the number one trait. Why? Because the best athletes on the team line up as the edge rushers, and you got to be able to block those guys. And they're oftentimes, you outweigh them by 40 pounds, but they're a whole lot quicker than you. So you need the gigantic tackle with the great feet, and an Ariante Ursi has got great feet. And if he runs a 1-5-2 10-yard split, that's going to be the greatest in the history of the Combine. So we'll look for that at the Combine. But he's got great feet, great athleticism. Emory Jones, I think, does as well. There's a few other tackles that fit in this boat for sure. But Ursi's movement ability at 340 is unmatched. All right, what are the Niners looking for at guard? A lot of times the Niners take guys who can play offensive tackle. Spencer Burford played right tackle at the University of Texas at San Antonio. Nick Sikel played tackle for Fordham. Dom Pooney played tackle for Kansas. They put these guys at guard. They want guards that have footwork like tackles. They don't want the big behemoth guy who can't move his feet at all. They want guys who can get out in space, pick off somebody in space and knock them on their keister. They're looking for an athlete at guard, not just a big body. Maddie's going with Joshua Gray from Oregon State, who's long, he's athletic. I'm going to go with more of a blue chipper here. I like Donovan Jackson, the guard from Ohio State. When Josh Simmons got hurt after 3 or 4 games this year, who did they move from right guard to left tackle? Donovan Jackson. At 6'4", 320, he played left tackle the rest of the year. He has the ability to play tackle. And he was protecting Will Howard's blind spot or blind side most of the year. Now, he's a really good guard prospect, but he can play tackle in a pinch, and that means he's got good footwork. And that he's got good length. He's tough. He's reliable. This guy's a really good offensive lineman. He's probably going to be a guard, but he might be able to play some right tackle. And the Niners like that combination, the guys that have good enough feet to play tackle but are tough enough and productive enough, that they can play anywhere, and they're valued. Well, Ohio State valued Donovan Jackson because when their best offensive lineman was done for a good chunk of the year, they said, hey, we need a great left tackle. Donovan, you're our left tackle. I'm sure they have 6 other left tackles they probably could have gone with, but they said, no, we're going to take our guard and move him to left tackle. That's a statement that they believe in Donovan Jackson and his footwork, and he rewarded that faith. All right, let's talk about center. At center, the Niners are looking for somebody who's smart. At center, they're looking for somebody who is stout. But it doesn't have to. You don't have to have that great length that you have at tackle. You got to have the arm length at tackle. They like long-armed guards, but at the center spot, they don't mind a shorter, smart, tough, guy who's going to set the tone. And Matty's got Gray Zabel, who was really a revelation in Mobile. He was fantastic in the practices. Not nearly as good in the game, by the way, but he was really good in the practices. And he's a guy who played tackle and played guard, and they project him as a center in the NFL. And he's a little bit shorter-limbed player than the typical guard or tackle, that's for sure. So he's more of a fit at center. I'm going to go with 2 guys that I absolutely love. Marcus Ware from Montana State and Willie Lampkin from North Carolina. Marcus Ware played right tackle at Montana State, but he's a little shorter arms. He's got shorter limbs, but he is fantastic at keeping himself between the defender and the quarterback. He doesn't lunge. He plays under control. He's got great strength. He's got great power in his anchor. You're not going to bull rush this guy. He's tough. He's versatile. He was a leader on that team. Marcus Ware, Montana State. Probably going to be a day 3 pick, maybe late day 3. And then maybe my favorite player in the entire draft is Willie Lampkin. Willie Lampkin's like 5'11", 285, and he was an all-world wrestler who will absolutely stonewall you. He's tough. He's physical. I like him as a fullback. I mean, I love this guy. There's no doubt in my mind this would be my draft crush, Willie Lampkin. He's short. I mean, some people say he's 5'10", 270. I don't think he's 5'10". I think he's closer to 6 feet. And I don't think he's 270. I think he's closer to 290. But he's tough. And he's like 66-0 as a collegiate wrestler. And I love the wrestling background. I love this kid's potential, maybe even play a goal line fullback. He's just tough. You're not beating this guy. I saw this guy throwing defensive linemen around in Mobile, and I thought, oh, my God, look at this guy. And I know he's short. He's short. So what? This guy will help you run the ball on the goal line, whether he's doing it from guard, center, or fullback. I got to have Willie Lampkin so the Niners can run the ball inside the 5. Gray Zabel, the guy that Matty's going with, is a much higher-rated player than Marcus Ware or Willie Lampkin. Gray Zabel's going to be a high second-round pick. Marcus Ware's going in the 6th round. Willie Lampkin's going in the late 5th or early 6th. I mean, they're late day 3 guys. He's got Gray Zabel, who's a borderline first-round pick. So a lot of people would say Zabel's better than my 2 guys, but you know what? The truth is the truth, which is the traits that Matty likes from Zabel or says the Niners like in a center: tough, smart, accountable. But they could have shorter limbs. That's Marcus Ware. That's Willie Lampkin. All right, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. And by the way, Matty didn't do a fullback, but if he was doing a fullback, I'd put Willie Lampkin at fullback. And if I wasn't putting Willie Lampkin at fullback, I'd put J.J. Pegues at fullback. Both those guys are linemen that could be turned into fullbacks at the next level, and I would absolutely turn both of them into fullbacks and say goodbye to Juice. All right, let's move to defense. At defensive end, Maddie is going with the former Buckeye. He says the archetype for the defensive end is Nick Bosa. You're looking for somebody who can rush the passer and play the run. You can't just be a pass rusher. You got to be able to play the run. You got to be able to play 3 downs. You got to be a 3-down bookend guy with a tremendous motor, great pass rusher, but you got to be big enough and strong enough to play the run, and you got to be willing to play the run. He's got JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State, who's solid. He's really solid. 6'5", almost 270, 12 and a half sacks, 22 tackles for loss last year. Super productive player, no doubt. And probably a late first, maybe a mid-second, somewhere in that range. I'm going to go with 2 guys who are even bigger-bodied guys that I think the Niners want to get bigger on the defensive line. I'm going to go Landon Jackson from Arkansas, probably on day 2 in the 3rd round. And I'm going to go Tyler Batty from BYU. Both these guys are, big, 6'4", 6'5", tall, 270-plus pounds, great motors. They come flying off the edge. Both these guys are competitive as hell. I think JT is probably a better run defender than those guys, but these guys are bigger-bodied guys who can stand in and play the run, and they're both hyper-competitive. So those would be my perfect fits at defensive end. Landon Jackson and Tyler Batty. There's others, so it's a very deep group, but those are the 2 that stand out. All right, let's move to defensive tackle. And he says the 49ers want defensive tackles who explode off the snap. It's what they liked about DJ Jones. It's why they signed Javon Hargrave. Chris Kaczmarek wants guys who get off the ball, guys who can penetrate and disrupt the opponent's backfield. One-gap penetrators. They're not looking for Ted Washington. They're, for you old school guys, they're looking for a one-gap penetrator who also is good against the run. Enter Walter Nolan. And Maddie's got Walter Nolan from Ole Miss here as the perfect fit, and I agree. It's a great defensive tackle draft. Kenneth Grant would be fantastic as well. Mason Graham. Both those Michigan guys are amazing. There's all kinds of really good day 3 and defensive tackles. J.J. Pegues, C.J. West, Ty Robinson. There's a bunch of guys. But Walter Nolan is absolutely the guy. He is absolutely the perfect fit. He plays the run well, as Matt notes here. He's got a 91.6 run grade from PFF for this year. He's the only interior defensive lineman with a higher grade, or the only interior defensive lineman with a higher grade was Mason Graham, who's probably going in the top 5, top 6. I mean, Mason Graham would be a perfect fit, but Walter Nolan gives you even more as a pass rusher. He can set up offensive linemen with moves. He's got an array of moves. He's a super athletic player. He plays the run really well. He's got a high motor. He gets off the football. He's getting up the field. He's a major pass rusher. If you can't block anybody with foot quickness and speed and moves, you're going to have a hard time with Walter Nolan. So I'm not even going to – I've got a bunch of guys that I like at this spot, but I think Matt's totally on the money. Walter Nolan is the perfect pick for the Niners at defensive tackle. All right, let's move to linebacker. And Matty's like, what do the Niners look for in a linebacker? They like somebody with the background of a defensive back. Flanagan Fowles played safety at Arizona. Jalen Graham was a hybrid linebacker safety at Purdue. Dre Greenlaw, once upon a time, was a corner. Fred Warner played this kind of hybrid safety position. They want linebackers who are undersized. They want to have a big physical defensive front, and they want those big behemoths inside to keep bodies off of their smaller, faster, converted strong safety type linebackers. And Matty's got a great one here in Jeffrey Bassa, the linebacker from Oregon, who's fantastic. Bassa was a high school safety in the state of Utah. He played safety at Oregon when he started, then transitioned to linebacker. He's really good in pass coverage. He's really good as a blitzer. He's got 27 quarterback pressures. He recorded 27 as a junior in 2023. I'm going to go, to me, I think this is a great conversation because the Niners do like undersized linebackers. This is the perfect draft for them. Eugene Asante is the captain at Auburn, and Larry Asante, his dad, played safety in the NFL. This kid's a converted safety. He's tough. Plays really hard, really physical, big time hitter. He's going to run in the sub 4.5. Chandler Martin from Memphis State is another guy, 6 feet, 230. He's going to run exceptionally well, incredibly productive. Linebacker, captain of the team, David Benda from Texas. All three of these guys, undersized. David Benda's 5'11", 235 pounds, but he can run like the wind. If you can keep the offensive linemen from climbing to that second level and picking them off by having some size up front on your defensive front, that will help these guys. But Eugene Asante, Chandler Martin, David Benda, Jeffrey Bassa, they're all good calls, but I'll go with Eugene Asante. Eugene Asante, to me, is the perfect Niner linebacker. Productive, angry, violent, can cover, will stick his nose in there, wants to hit, doesn't care if it's an all-star game, he still wants to hit. All right, for cornerback, let's move to corner. The Niners like feisty corners, and they always have. I mean, DJ Reed, super feisty. Demo Lenore, super feisty. They like guys who want to compete. Renardo Green, super feisty. These guys are tough. The guy that I totally agree with Matty here, he's got Kobe Bryant from Kansas in the 6th round. Now, I don't think he's going to be there in the 6th round. I think you're probably going to have to take him earlier than that. They call him the Mamba, obviously, because of Kobe Bryant, the basketball player who's no longer with us. And this guy's super thin. He's like 170 pounds, but this guy plays his ass off. It's amazing, man. Opposing quarterbacks had a 62.7 passer rating when targeting him this year. He's just feisty. He's tough. I'll give you one more from Oregon, Jabbar Muhammad. Another guy, super feisty, super tough, super competitive, just hates to lose. Very, very cocky, very, very confident. Both those guys, if you interviewed them, you'd be like, wow, these guys are arrogant. Yeah, well, you know what? Arrogance is a big part about being a great corner. And Kobe Bryant's got it for sure, and so does Jabbar Muhammad. At safety, Matty said that Jonas Sanker, and I don't know if I would agree with the assessment of what the Niners are looking for in safety. Says the 49ers will take intelligence over foot speed when it comes to safety. I think what they're looking for is different than what they used to look for. I think they used to look for just absolute guys who would hit. Jimmy Ward, Jaquaski Tart, almost like converted, almost like linebackers out back there. I think that's when they first took over. I think that's what John was looking for. Now he's looking for, then those got Ward and Tart dropped every interception they ever thrown in their direction. So they started looking towards ball skills, and they brought in Tayshaun Gibson, who has a bunch of interceptions. Talanoa Fonga, great ball skills. Jair Brown, great ball skills. Then, they missed. They were struggling against the run. And so what did they look for last year in the draft? They looked for another violent player, and they got Malik Mustafa. So I think ultimately what they're looking for is a violent player who's also smart, who also can come away with an interception from time to time. I'm going to go with Dan Jackson, the Georgia safety, who just, every time there was a big hit to be doled out, Dan Jackson was making it. It seemed like he was always Johnny on the spot, in the right place at the right time, either fumble recoveries, interceptions. He just seemed like a guy who knew what to do. I think he's super physical, loves to hit. He'd rather have the big hit. He'd rather play the man than the ball. But I think this guy is a better interceptor, has better hands than some of the Niner safeties they've had in the past. You might be able to convince me there's somebody else out there. Matty's going with Jonas Sanker from UVA in the 6th round. I'll say Dan Jackson. I think Dan Jackson showed in the All-Star game that he's athletic enough to cover, and he's a guy who loves to hit. Absolutely loves to hit. I think John Lynch is going to put on that film and say, "Give me Dan Jackson." Now, I don't know if he's going to get drafted. He might go in the 6th round. He might go in the 7th round. He might go later. But he might go after the draft. But I would say if the Niners wind up with a safety, Dan Jackson from Georgia, I could see being a perfect fit for what they're looking for. All right, so there you go. Our perfect fits at safety, Dan Jackson; at corner, Kobe Bryant and Jabbar Muhammad; at linebacker, Eugene Asante, Chandler Martin, David Benda; at defensive tackle, we are in total agreement with Maddie. It's Walter Nolan. At defensive end, we're going to go Landon Jackson and Tyler Batty from BYU. Jackson plays at Arkansas. At guard or at center, we're going Willie Lampkin and Marcus Ware. Ware at Montana State, Lampkin at Carolina, started at Coastal Carolina and transferred. At offensive guard, that's at center. At guard, we're going Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. At tackle, we're going Ariante Ursi from the University of Minnesota. At tight end, we're going Jackson Hawes, the Yale transfer. You got to be smart to play tight end for the Niners. He's really, really smart. At wide receiver, I love Maddie's choices of Savion Williams and Ricky White, but I'll go one better and say Luther Burden. Luther Burden is absolutely Deebo Samuel, but better. At running back, I'm going to go Bayshul Tootin from Vatech. And at quarterback, I'm going Brady Cook. Brady Cook. I see a lot of the similar traits to Brock Purdy and Brady Cook. The more I watch that kid, the more I like him. He doesn't have a huge arm, but he's got an NFL caliber arm. And I like Brady Cook. 7th round, give me Brady Cook out of Missouri. So there you go. That is who I think are the best fits for the 49ers across the board. Now let's have a word from our sponsor, Aura. Have you ever typed your name on the internet and seen all of your private information is online? Are you tired of receiving tons of spam calls from random numbers? Are you receiving more and more of these as time has gone on? Well, that's where Aura, the sponsor of today's show, can really help you out. Data brokers sell your information to scammers and spammers and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, your email, your home address, all your records, your health records, who your relatives are. It's all out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use the information to help them access my social media accounts, my bank accounts, or any other sensitive information. Aura also does so much more to protect me and my family from online threats I can't see. I get other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more without having to download several different apps. It's really easy to set up, and best of all, I get everything at one affordable price. I value my privacy, and I value yours. You can go to the link in the description to start your 2-week free trial. And thanks to Aura for being a proud sponsor of The Krug Show, and once again, thanks to Matt Barrows for creating a phenomenal article in The Athletic that we could kind of create into a video. Maddie's choices as the perfect fits are Dillon Gabriel at quarterback, Dylan Sampson at running back from Tennessee, Savion Williams and Ricky White at wide receiver. Williams plays at TCU, White at UNLV. Tyler Warren from Penn State is his perfect tight end for the 49ers. At offensive tackle, Maddie's going Chase Lunt from University of Connecticut. He's going Joshua Gray at guard from Oregon State. Gray Zabel, the center from North Dakota State. JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State as his defensive end. Walter Nolan as his defensive tackle. Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon as his linebacker. Kobe Bryant from Kansas as his corner. And Jonas Sanker from the University of Virginia in the 6th round as his safety. So there you go. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. And thanks to our friends at Aura for supporting The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.